sport has the best athletes? Let's talk about it.
Soccer has the best athletes. And let's talk about it. So, the reason I pick soccer is not just because I'm a soccer player and a soccer coach, and that's my favorite sport, but I actually do believe that soccer is probably the most complex sport to actually play. Not the most complex sport overall that would go to American football. But as most of you know, American football, most of the players specialize in a few specific roles instead of having to do everything. To where in soccer, most of you are doing everything, at least to a little degree. Only the goalkeepers are specialists. And even then, their specialization is closer to a quarterback than it is to an offensive lineman, if you know what I mean. But in soccer, let's start out with physical qualities. Soccer requires great physical athleticism. You need to be fast. You need to have great acceleration, deceleration, change of direction, and of course, agility. You need to be powerful. You need to be able to accelerate very fast with great power. You need to be able to jump to get high for headers, and you need to be physically strong. Now, you don't need to be as physically strong as, say, sports like rugby or American football, but soccer players are still damn strong. If you don't believe me, you've never actually played soccer at a high level. Then, not to mention, out of mainstream sports, soccer does have the most endurance requirements. Now, I have stated before, soccer is not an endurance sport because it's not. Soccer is a speed and power sport with speed and power endurance elements. However, out of mainstream sports, soccer absolutely has the highest requirements for this speed and power endurance over pretty much any sport. Now let's get into the other aspects. The technical aspects of soccer. Soccer's technical aspects, I think, are among the highest, if not the highest in all sports. For starters, number one, learning to do skills without using your hands is more difficult than using your hands. It just is. The fact of the matter is we naturally have more coordination with our hands than we do our feet. And because in soccer, the vast majority of our controlling of the ball must be done with our feet, it's much, much harder. Not to mention, you need to be coordinated with both your left and your right foot to actually maximize your effectiveness in the game. In many other sports, say tennis, baseball, and to a degree even basketball, but not quite so much, you get to focus primarily on your strong hand. Soccer players do not have that luxury. Yes, I know there are some players that have managed to be effective while being one-footed, but they're outliers. They are not the norm. Now let's get into the tactics of soccer. Tactics in soccer, from a player's perspective, are among the most complex in the game because soccer, unlike most sports, has very few actual set plays. Most of it is largely improvised on the go. Now, yes, you can practice different passing patterns in the game, in defensive setups, and all that like, but the players are having to constantly react and make decisions on the fly. And with 11 opposing players and 10 of your teammates, to be able to coordinate this at a high level takes an incredibly high sport IQ. You need to be able to make the decision, what happens when I receive the ball? Am I going to dribble? Am I going to pass? Who am I going to pass to? How am I going to pass to them? Am I going to pass to their feet? Am I going to play them into space behind a defender? And many other things like that. Soccer's tactical IQ is higher than almost any sport on earth. Also, from a psychological perspective, just the concentration and tension in soccer is higher than the vast majority of sports. For one, soccer does not have real breaks in the game other than halftime. In basketball, American football, and pretty much any other sport, there are large stoppages which allow you to have mental breaks during the game, and you can simply just quit paying attention for a little while and allow your brain to rest. In soccer, it's fairly constant. At best, you have just a few seconds where the ball is out of bounds before it comes back in. But at the same time, if you're not paying attention during those times, the other team is getting into position to make the plays while you are not paying attention and going to allow them to be able to execute something against you. Now, that is my argument for soccer. I do want to address your argument for why you think baseball players have the best athletes. And frankly, I like you, but this is where we're going to have a fight. Because just know, baseball as a sport, when we look at the athletic profile of baseball players compared to other sports, doesn't even hit my top 10 of highest level athletes. And the reason is baseball, unlike soccer, unlike basketball, unlike rugby, unlike ice hockey or field hockey, unlike even American football, has a more select and specialist need than pretty much any other sport. For the most part, baseball players need two qualities very, very well: elite level eye hand coordination and ability to produce power rapidly. That covers both your abilities to bat in hitting the ball, because that's your eye hand coordination and power production, but also throwing the ball, which is your power production primarily. Now, they are specific skills, so it is going to be specific both to hitting and throwing. However, baseball doesn't require great speed. Yes, speed can be an asset in baseball, but it is not a requirement for pretty much any player. Agility, also not really a requirement for baseball. It can help, but it is not a requirement like it is in many other sports. And stamina, almost not at all. The only players that you could argue that require stamina in baseball are the pitchers, because pitchers have to pitch over and over again. You could also probably argue for the catchers, but not anyone else. And when it comes to the ability to transition to other sports, because baseball's athletic profile is hyper specific to a few specific things, they would be the most likely to fail at other sports. And I think we could prove this quite easily. Put baseball players on a soccer pitch. For one, they're going to fatigue before they could ever do anything, really. Let's be honest. Put baseball players on an American football field or a rugby field. They're going to get run over and crushed. It's that simple. And any other sport like that. Now, yes, if a soccer player, a football player, a basketball player, etc., started trying to hit pitches off a major league pitcher, yeah, they're probably not going to hit anything. No shit. You don't automatically go into the elite levels of that sport and actually start being able to do it on its own. However, many sports do have elite level eye-hand coordination. Take goalkeepers in soccer. Being able to save shots in soccer requires the same amount of eye-hand coordination, but probably superior reaction and agility skills. You give people that have trained as goalkeepers all your life time to practice batting, and over time, all of a sudden you got guys who can hit a baseball probably just fine. Now, would they hit it as well as people that grew up practicing hitting baseballs their entire life? Probably not, but in a few years training, they would be able to hit major league pitching. On the other hand, there's probably not many players in Major League Baseball that could make a good college soccer team, even if they dedicated themselves to practicing goalkeeper for the next 2-3 years.